Strategies to help us understand a book when we read. And we've been doing a lot of questioning when we read. We ask questions about the text, and then we infer our answers. Well, today we're going to be doing some questioning and doing some inferring, but we're not going to ask questions about the story. We're going to ask questions about words that we don't know. Because we know that when we're reading, it's our job to figure out the words we don't know so we can understand the story. So today, your job is going to be to notice when you hear a word you don't know and tell me, what does that word mean? And then we're going to use some clues to help us figure out what that word means. And up here I made a chart that we're going to record our thinking on. And it says we can use different clues to help us infer word meaning. And some of the ways that we can infer word meaning is we can reread. And when we reread, sometimes we say, oh yeah, now I get it.
Help you.
The other words can help us, Sally said.
Like we did in the library in Nebraska when we found the flag out, then we went back to that page and
Absolutely. We reread and had some new learning. We can also use the text. Sometimes if we read on, we can get some clues from the text. We can get some clues from the pictures. And I put the word pictures instead of illustrations because when we write down what helped us, if we just put an I, we'll think that's inferring because we know we use I for infer. We can use our schema. Do you remember when we read How Many Days to America? And it talked about a boat bobbing? And Jose had seen a boat, and he knew that boats went back and forth like this. He used his schema to figure out what that word meant. We can also use another source. Sometimes we have to think about another book. Sometimes we can ask someone that knows. Sometimes we can check in the dictionary.
Or you could use your imagination.
Okay, so today when we're reading, we're going to think about the words that we don't know. We're going to write down what we think it means, and we're going to write down what helped us. And the reason I wrote what we think it means is because we're inferring. We're not sure. We'll have to go back and check later. Okay, let me introduce you to the book we're going to read today. You're going to love this book. I took a lot of care in picking out a book that I just knew you would like. The name of this book is Miss Rumphius. And it's about a lady whose name is Miss Rumphius, and she has the kind of thinking that we have in this classroom. We might not get to finish the whole book today because, you know, when we do a lot of thinking, sometimes we stop and we talk about things, and so we'll read part of it today.
And we could read on tomorrow.
And we'll read on tomorrow.
Just like it took a week to finish.
Miss Rumphius is her name. That's just her name. Just like my name is Miss Damiano, her name is Miss Rumphius. I'm going to begin reading, and I want you to watch what I do. Your job in the beginning is to watch and notice how I stop and think about words I don't know. And then it will be your turn. Miss Rumphius. Story and Pictures by Barbara Cooney. I'm going to save the dedication page for later. Right now it's my turn. You're going to watch me and notice what I do when I get to words that I don't know. The lupine lady lives in a small house overlooking the sea. I wonder what lupine means. I'm going to read on and see if I can figure it out. In between the rocks around her house grow blue and purple and rose-colored flowers. The lupine lady is little and old, but she has not always been that way. I know. She is my great aunt, and she told me so. And let me just stop for a minute, because we've been talking a lot about how we can tell who's telling the story. Yeah. And I want you to notice that I'm thinking it's one of the characters in the book that's telling the story, because I hear her saying, I know. She is my great aunt. So I'm inferring that a little character, a little girl, is probably telling the story about her great aunt. Once upon a time, she was a little girl named Alice, who lived in a city by the sea. From the front stoop, I'm wondering what a stoop is. Let me read on and see. From the front stoop, she could see the wharfs and the bristling masts of tall ships. Ooh, I heard a lot of words I didn't know. I'm going to reread that. From the front stoop, she could see the wharfs and the bristling masts of tall ships. I see you have lots of inferences. Will you watch and see how I do it on this page? And then I'm going to have you try on the next page. From the front stoop, I'm thinking that this area must be the stoop. I'm getting my clue from the picture because it says from the front stoop she can see. Now let me see. It says she can see the wharfs. So I'm thinking the wharf must be this area over where they keep the boats. And the bristling masts. Bristling. You know, I'm thinking about a brush and it has bristles on it, and I know bristles stand up straight, so maybe bristling and bristles are sort of related. So I'm looking for something that stands up straight. Ooh, I see that. Bristling mast, so that must be the mast.
I know what it is.
Did you notice what I did?
Yeah.
Did you notice how I used some pictures to get my clues?
Yeah.
And how I reread?
Yeah.
You use other sources too.
What other source did you see me use?
Like when it said bristles, you use the brush.
I did. I thought about another word and connected it. Would you turn and tell someone what you saw me do while I write the words up here?
Well, she saw the bones and she had the fix. She made it dance straight. And it's like a balloon and a
To help her figure out the word.
brush on the bottom.
Okay, turn back around when you're finished.
You wrote down the word.
Okay, I heard people saying they noticed that I was using the pictures and studying the illustrations. I heard Nicole say that I used my schema, which I did. I thought about, well, I've seen a bristle on a brush, and maybe that word sounds the same. And I reread the text. And I'm going to put words here that you notice now that you don't know. If you notice, I put the word lupine because I didn't figure out what that word means yet. So I'm going to leave that for us to figure out. I'm going to read on, and when you see a word that you don't know, would you show me? And then we'll stop and talk about it and see if we can use some clues to figure it out. Many years ago, her grandfather had come to America on a large sailing ship.
Wow.
Now, he worked in the shop at the bottom of the house making figureheads for the prows of ships and carving Indians out of wood to put in front of cigar stores. I see lots of questions about words you don't know, so I'm going to stop. Amani, tell me what you heard.
I heard the word, what was it called again?
Prows.
Can you reread it for me?
Now, he worked in the shop at the bottom of the house making figureheads for the prows.
Figurehead.
Figureheads. That's a good question. I'm going to write that one down.
Maybe.
Figureheads. Nicole, was there another word? Prows. Ronaldo, was there another word?
Cigarettes. What was the word? Cigar.
Cigar.
I can tell you. A cigar through like I don't know.
Oh, I can
It's a little different than a cigarette. Do you know what a cigarette is?
Yeah.
It's a little different.
Yeah, it looks different. A long time ago they had cigars, but it's not. It doesn't look like cigarettes now, but they had cigars. They put fire on it just like cigarettes.
Okay, so let's take care of that word. Cigar. Ronaldo, did you figure out what it means?
Yeah, they told me. It's like a cigarette.
But it's not.
We got help from a source.
You know what's the
But it's
difference?
brown. And what helped you figure that out, Ronaldo?
My friends helped me figure it out.
My friends help.
My friends. That's sort of like another source, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because your friends can know a lot of other
Okay,
things.
so we figured out one word. Let's go back and see if we can figure out figureheads and prows. I'm going to reread. And while I'm rereading, would you study those illustrations and think about the text? and see if you can infer. Now, he worked in the shop at the bottom of the house making figureheads for the prows of ships. If you have an inference, would you turn and tell someone what you're inferring?
Action figure is what figurehead. And I think like an action figure. It might be a statue and it might be a head.
That the figurehead is what he's making right here is called a figurehead.
And that's what I did. And probably
I hear lots of inferences about the word figurehead, so let's tackle that one first. Brendan, what were you and Sally discussing?
We were discussing what figurehead means, and I compared action figure with figurehead, and I said that maybe an action figure and a figurehead, maybe if I said a figurehead might be an action figure that, like a big action figure that has a head.
Okay. See what he's saying? He was using a schema to think about, well, I know the word action figure, so maybe a figurehead is like a big statue with the head, like an action figure. Marquise?
I discussed with Nicole and Brandon W. that I thought that a figurehead was also an action figure because maybe in the old time they called it a figurehead but not an action figure.
Okay. Matthew?
I'm referring that a figurehead is that when the man is making it.
Sebastian?
I'm referring that it means that like a head of plastic.
Nicole?
Crowds means crowds.
Okay, you're on to the prows. Let's work on figureheads for right now. So we had a couple of ideas. Some people are thinking, okay, it's like an action figure. And so I'm looking for maybe a statue. And it says figurehead, so maybe it's like the action figure's head. Matthew was getting some clues from the illustration. Well, I also got some clues from the illustration, Jose. I thought about these right here. Those are not real people. Those are sculptures. And so I was thinking that maybe that is the figurehead. So it sort of is along your lines of an action figure. It is like a statue, a really big statue. And he's carving them out of the wood. So these are the figureheads. So if this is a figurehead, let's reread and see if we can figure out what a prow is. My turn. Now, he worked in the shop at the bottom of the house making figureheads for the prows of ships. Take a look at those illustrations. See if you can infer what prow might mean.
Oh, I can see it.
Nicole, what are you thinking?
It's like over here. There's a little picture.
Okay, so what do you think prow might mean?
I think prow means like a little design in front.
Okay, let's read and see.
Oh, yeah, because...
Making figureheads for the prows of ships. Karina?
I think a prow is a kind of ship.
Okay. Marquise?
I think a prow is like people. It's like people waiting for a figurehead.
Okay. Take a real close look at that illustration. I know it says he makes figureheads for the prows of ships. The illustration is really tiny, but see if you can study and get a clue.
I know something.
You can sit. Sebastian?
I'm remembering that it means like in the front.
In the front. What gave you that idea?
Like if I know that in the front of the ship are those sticks, then I'm inferring that it's in the front.
That was so smart. Did you see what Sebastian did? He really studied that illustration, and he said, well, the figurehead is on the front of the ship, so prow must mean the front of the ship. I'm going to write that down. Sebastian, what helped you figure that out?
The pictures. Front ship. The pictures.
And we figured out that the figurehead is like the wooden sculpture.
Yes, like a statue. I was thinking...
Statue, that's a good word. The wooden statue.
What I was thinking, I don't remember of a figurehead probably means like that. I think I know what it means, and I think it means like when her grandpa makes paintings, well, like statues and
Yep, we talked about the figureheads or the wooden statues that he carves for the front of the ships. And what helped us was the pictures.
And of people's heads,
And Jose, I'm going to put our schema because Brandon used his schema to think about an action figure and related it to the word figurehead. Let's read on and see. For Alice's grandfather was an artist. He painted pictures, too, of sailing ships and places across the sea. When he was very busy, Alice helped him put in the